Hey everybody, the other day I did a APA Basic 1976 All-Star Game replay in honor of this week's All-Star Game. So I thought I would try again, this time with strat-o-matic. And since I did APA Basic, I thought why not do strat-o-matic Basic. And this is the 1986 All-Star Game played at the Houston Astrodome. The as-played lineups and as-played rosters, at least what referencing baseball.reference.com. So if anybody was injured, didn't play, I didn't go in that deep to look, but these are the original rosters that are listed on baseballreference.com. Let's look at the reserve players for the American League. Representing the Toronto Blue Jays is Tony Fernandez. Representing the Chicago White Sox, Harold Baines. Representing the Boston Red Sox, Rich Gedman. Representing the Kansas City Royals, Frank White. Representing the Cleveland Indians, Brooke Jacoby. Representing the Kansas City Royals again, George Brett. Representing the Toronto Blue Jays, Lloyd Mosby. Representing the Boston Red Sox, Jim Rice. Representing the Oakland A's, Jose Canseco. Representing the Toronto Blue Jays again, Jesse Barfield. Representing the New York Yankees, Don Mattingly. Representing the Baltimore Orioles, Eddie Murray. Representing the, oh, that's the batters. Now let's look at the pitchers. Representing the Baltimore Orioles, Don Ossie. Representing the New York Yankees, Dave Righetti. Representing the Detroit Tigers, Guillermo, don't call me Willie Hernandez. Representing the Cleveland Indians, Ken Schramm. Representing the California Angels, Mike Witt. And representing the Texas Rangers, knuckleballer Charlie Huff. And then finally representing the Milwaukee Brewers, Teddy Higuera. So those are your reserves for the American League. Let's look at the starters for the American League. Leading off and playing center field, Kirby Puckett. Batting second, playing left field, Ricky Henderson. Hitting third, playing third base, Wade Boggs. Batting cleanup, catching, Lance Parrish. Hitting fifth, first base, Wally Joyner. Hitting sixth, shortstop, Cal Ripken. Batting seventh, right fielder, Dave Winfield. Batting eighth, second baseman, Lou Whitaker. Batting ninth, using pitcher card number 1, Roger Clemens. So those are your American League rosters and starters for this 1986 All-Star Game. Let's meet the reserves for the National League. The designated home team. Representing the San Francisco Giants, Chili Davis. Representing the Cincinnati Reds, Dave Parker. Representing the Montreal Expos, Tim Raines. Representing the San Francisco Giants, Chris Brown. Representing the Montreal Expos, Hubie Brooks. Representing the Los Angeles Dodgers, Steve Sachs. Representing the Houston Astros, the host Astros, Glenn Davis. Representing Pittsburgh Pirates, Tony Pena. And representing the Chicago Cubs, Jody Davis. Let's look at the reserve pitchers. Representing the Los Angeles Dodgers, Fernando Valenzuela. Representing the Houston Astros, Mike Scott. Representing the New York Mets, Sid Fernandez. Representing the San Francisco Giants, Mike Krukow. Representing the Pittsburgh Pirates, Rick Rhoden. Representing the Philadelphia Phillies, Shane Raleigh. Representing the Cincinnati Reds, John Franco. Representing the Houston Astros, Dave Smith. And representing the Montreal Expos, Jeff Reardon. Those are your National League reserves. Let's look at the National League starters. Leading off and playing left field from the San Diego Padres, Tony Gwynn. Batting second from the Chicago Cubs at second base, Ryne Sandberg. Hitting third, first base from the New York Mets, Keith Hernandez. Batting cleanup for the New York Mets and catching, Gary Carter. Hitting fifth for the New York Mets in right field, Darryl Strawberry. Hitting sixth, representing the Philadelphia Phillies, third baseman Mike Schmidt. Batting seventh in center field, representing the Atlanta Braves, Dale Murphy. Batting eighth at shortstop, representing the St. Louis Cardinals, Ozzie Smith. And batting ninth, using pitcher hitting card number 1, the Doctor, Dwight Gooden. So those are your rosters. We'll be right back for the start of the ball game. Okay, we're all ready to go. Kirby Puckett is in the box to face Dwight Gooden. And remember, this is basic rules only. So here we go. It's a 5-3, and that's off of Gooden. That's a ground ball shortstop X. So we go immediately to the D20, the shortstop. Ozzie Smith is a 1, and that's a 10. And a 1 and a 10 in the basic chart, shortstop position, a 1 and a 10 is an out. So nobody's on base, doesn't matter what kind of an out. It's just going to be a 6-3 ground out. One away, and then I'll bring up Ricky Henderson, left fielder. We get a 1-4, and Henderson is going to hit a home run. Look at that. Henderson 1-4. It's a dinger. And the American League jumps out on top 1-0 off the Doctor as Henderson goes yard. Brings up Wade Boggs. 3-8 for Boggs is a solid single. And the Doctor trying to get himself back together here. Here's Lance Parrish. 1-7. That is a ground ball third base B, so it's a fielder's choice. 5-4 for out number 2. Parrish is at first with 2 outs for Wally Joyner, rookie sensation in '86. 5-5 is a fly ball right field to end the inning. But the run is scored. 1 run on 2 hits, no errors, and 1 left. We go to the bottom of the first. My score sheet's 2-sided, so I have to flip it each time. We go to the bottom of the first. It's 1-0 American League. And Roger Clemens will be stepping on the hill. Take his shot at the National League stars. Tony Gwynn's going to be the first one to take a crack at him. 2-11 for Gwynn is a ground ball to second. That's 1 away. That'll bring up Sandberg. 4-4 off of Clemens, and that's a 1-3 triple. Anything else will be a single. And that is a single for Sandberg, so a 1-out single. Now he is an A stealer, and the catcher, Lance Parrish, is a 1 defender. So going back to my rules for basic base stealing, a 1 catcher is going to provide a -4 on the steal rating. An A stealer starts with a 15, so that would be a 1 to an 11 if Sandberg wanted to try it. So let's see how they're going to play this. They're going to go ahead and give it a go. 1 to 11, he'll make it. It is exactly an 11, so he made it by the skin of his teeth, as they say. So Sandberg steals second. Brings up Keith Hernandez. And that's a 5-3. That's a ground ball shortstop X. Shortstop Ripken is a 2, and that's a 12. 2 and a 12 on the basic fielding chart. 2 and a 12 is an out number 3. Out number 3 is a double play. So just like ground ball A, no, it wouldn't be. It would have been a double play had not stolen. My bad. 6-3, and I believe the runner has to hold at second. Other runs advance 1 base. My bad. Tell you I'm rusty at the basic game. So Sandberg actually does move to third base, but now there are 2 outs for Gary Carter. So moving to third might not be that relevant. 3-6 is a pop out to second, and it wasn't relevant. So nothing doing for the National League. They get a hit and leave 1 on, and at the end of 1 complete, it is the American League 1 and the National League nothing. And now we flip over to the American League, where Cal Ripken will be leading things off against Mr. Gooden. And both pitchers probably just going to go 2 innings, so we'll see. Here's Ripken. 5-3 against Gooden is a ground ball shortstop X. Ozzy is a 1, and that's a 17. A 1 and a 17 is an out 3, so that's a good play. 1 away for Mr. Winfield. That's a 2-10 for Winfield, and he will draw a walk. So a 1-out walk brings up Whitaker. Lou Whitaker. 6-7 against Gooden. Ground ball second base X. Second baseman Sandberg is a 1. Whoops, that's an 18. So a 1 and an 18 at second base. 1 and an 18 says roll 20-sided die again. Alright, it's a 3. So a 1 and a 3 is out 3. And we know from before, out 3 is a completion of a double play. So that is a 4-6-3 double play to end the second inning, or into the top of the second, I should say. No runs, no hits, no errors, and nobody left. We go to the bottom of the second, still 1-0 favor of the American League. And that's probably going to be all for Gooden, depending on how his batting order comes up. Clemens, we know he's going to lead off next inning, so this is his final inning on the mound. He'll be facing Strawberry. That's a 4-9. 4-9 is a fly ball to left. 1 away. Brings up Michael Jack Schmidt. That's a 6-7, and that's a walk. So Clemens walks Schmidt to bring up Murphy. Dale Murphy. 6-7, and that's the same roll again as another walk. So 2 on, 1 out for the Ozzy Smith, the Wizard of Oz. 1-7, and he's going to pop it up to third. And now we're at Gooden's spot in the order, so we're going to get a pinch hitter for Mr. Gooden. And we'll look at the National League batting players, and we'll see who they're going to go to here. They have an abundance of outfielders, so that's where we're going to look to. And it appears it's going to be Chili Davis. So Chili Davis, actually they only have 3 outfielders, so they're not really an abundant. They actually got 2 catchers, so we're gonna use Jody Davis. How about that? Jody Davis, a different Davis, the other Davis. There's 3 Davises on the team. There's Glenn Davis, Jody Davis, and Chili Davis, and we are using Jody Davis. So Jody Davis, the catcher, will be pinch hitting here in the second inning. And I've got my little score sheet here that tells me who's available and who I've used already, so that's what I'm doing here, so marking them off as they go. Same thing for this side here. I've also, oops, knocked over Clemens. I've also got my little whiteboard here, if you want to call it that, so we'll use that to erase Jody Davis from the list. So I've got a double barrel so I won't forget and won't accidentally use somebody twice or something weird like that. So for right now, it is Jody Davis with a big spot, 2 on, 2 out. 3-5, and he's going to strike out. So Jody Davis fails in his opportunity. No runs, no hits, no errors, and 2 left at the end of 2. It's the American League 1 and the National League nothing. And that's going to do it for Clemens. He will be done for the evening, as Gooden was as well. So new pitcher for the National League, and it will be Fernando Valenzuela. He will be the new pitcher for the National League, and he will be facing, to start off, a pinch hitter for the American League for Gooden. So one thing with these all-star games, you get a lot of substitutions, so it can be a logistical nightmare sometimes. Let's look at the bench for the American League. Let's see who they have an abundance of. They got abundance of third basemen, so they're going to go ahead and use the hound dog, Jim Presley. He will pinch hit here. I can find his card. Jim Presley, where did you go? There he is. So the Hound Dog, Jim Presley from Seattle, will be the pinch hitter because they have a plethora of third basemen on the roster. So when it comes time to substitute, they won't have any issues. They still got Brooke Jacoby and George Brett, so they got plenty of third basemen on the list. So Fernando Valenzuela against Presley, 5-11. That is a walk. So pinch hit walk by Presley. So he is on board. Back to the top of the order, and Kirby Puckett. 1-4 for Puckett is a pop out to third. One away for Ricky with that home run his last time up. 6-4 is a catcher X. Catcher in this case, Gary Carter's a 1. That's a 13. So we look at the basic chart. A 13 and a 1 is a foul out. So no pass balls or anything to worry about. Just a foul out. 2 down for Wade Boggs. Boggs is 6'8" against Valenzuela. Ground ball shortstop X. That is Ozzie. He's a 1. And that's a 13 as it finally stopped. 1 and a 13 is an out 3. That's a good play. Innings over. No runs, no hits, no errors, and a man left. We go to the bottom of the third. Still American League leading 1-0. And the new pitcher for the American League will be Teddy Higuera from Milwaukee. So he will take over for Roger Clemens, who went 2 innings. So Higuera, the lefty from the Brewers, will be on. And he will be facing Tony Gwynn, top of the order. 1-8 is a 1-19 single for Gwynn. 20 would be a line out. It's an 18, so he snuck it in there with a single. He is an A stealer, so he could try to steal again. Again, that would be a 1 through an 11. Do they want to test it? They better. They're not going to press their luck. I think they're going to go ahead and let Sandberg hit. Let's see what Sandberg can do. 6'11". Fly ball left field X. Left fielder is Henderson. He's a 1. Most everybody's a 1, seems like. So 1 and a 4 for an outfielder. 1 and a 4 is an out 4, which says runners hold. So it's a fly to left, 1 away for Keith Hernandez. 6-6 is a solid single by Hernandez, and that will move Gwynn to second base. So we go to Gary Carter. 3-11 for Carter. Ground ball shortstop A. It's a 6-4-3 twin killing. And the inning is over. So no runs, 2 hits, no errors, and a man left. We've completed 3 here at the Astrodome in the 1986 All-Star Game, and it's the American League 1 and the National League nothing. So Fernando is going to come back out for his second inning of work, and he will be facing Lance Parrish to lead things off. Parrish, Joyner, and Ripken. 1-4, and that's a home run for Lance Parrish. His column 1 is loaded on the basic side, and that is a home run, Lance Parrish. So he got to Fernando. It's now 2-0 American League on 2 solo homers. Here's Joyner. 2-8 for Joyner. It's a ground ball to short. 1 away. Here is Cal Ripken. Ripken, a 3-9 is a walk. So base on balls there. Brings up Winfield. 1-11 for Winfield is a ground ball second base B. It's a fielder's choice. 4-6 for out number 2. Brings up Lou Whitaker. 3-10 for Whitaker is a ground ball back to the pitcher to end the inning. So 1 run on that 1 hit. No errors and a man left. And we go to the bottom of the fourth, with the American League holding a 2-0 lead. And this will also be the last inning for Higuera. Fernando pitches his 2 innings, and Higuera will try to get his 2 innings in, as he's scheduled to bat in the top of the 5th. Right now it's a straw man, Darryl Strawberry, to lead things off. It's 2-10, and that's a walk, a leadoff walk to the straw man. Brings up Mike Schmidt. One swing of the bat could get the NL back in this in a hurry. 1-7, but not like that. That's a 6-4-3 double play. 2 quick outs, and here's the Murph. 6-4 against Higuera is a fly to right, and that's going to end the inning. No runs, no hits, no errors, and nobody left. We go to the 5th, and we'll get a new pitcher for the National League, and we'll get a pinch hitter for the American League as the pitcher spot is up. First things first, let's look and see who the new pitcher for the National League is going to be. It is going to be Rick Rhoden. So Rick Rhoden from the Pirates will come on and pitch. Rick Rhoden. Rick Rhoden of the Pirates will be on. And the pinch hitter for the American League, let's see, they've got a pretty good, a fair amount of outfielders as well. So they're going to go to Jim Rice. So Jim Rice is going to pinch hit for the American League. Jim Rice. So Rice pinch hitting here to start the 5th against Rick Rhoden. 2-8. 2-8 is a 1-15 double. Anything else will be a single. And that's a 10, so it is a double for Jim Rice. Leadoff double, pinch hit variety. So he does his job quite well with that pinch hit double. Back to the top of the order for Kirby. That's a 4-8 against Rhoden, and that's a strikeout. So 1 away for Ricky Henderson. 2-9 for Henderson. A possible second home run of the game. 1-15 would do it. And he does it. Ricky Henderson, his second home run of the game. This one a 2-run shot. And the American League starting to get some distance going here. It is now 4-0 thanks to Ricky. So Ricky doing the job here. Here's Wade Boggs, and treating Rick Rhoden rather rudely. 3-9 for Boggs is a solid single. Brings up Lance Parrish. 6-6 is another single. So Rick Rhoden getting abused here. He may not last very long. Here's Wally Joyner. 6-9, and that's a fly ball to center for out number 2. Comes Cal. 1-7 for Cal is a double, and that will produce another run as Boggs comes around to score. Parrish will hold. Slow runner that he is. He will hold at third base. But now that's 3 runs in the inning with runners at second and third and 2 outs for Winfield. 2-8 for Winfield, and that's going to be a 1-4 triple, 5-20, a single with 2 stars, and that's what we got, a 2-run single for Winfield. 2 more runs have come in, and Rick Rhoden just totally biting the bullet here, and he's going to have to come out. They can't let him go any further. They're going to bring in Shane Rawley, a lefty. See what actually no, they're going to bring in John Franco, a lefty. They need somebody that's used to being a relief pitcher, so they're going to bring Franco in to face Lou Whitaker. Lefty on lefty matchup, even though in basic it doesn't matter. Still try to play it a little bit realistic like you would do if it did matter. So Franco is in to face Whitaker. 9th man to bat in the inning. 4-4 against Franco is a fly to center, and the inning is finally over. Gory details, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hits, 5 runs, all earned, 6 hits, no errors, and 1 left. So we go to the bottom of the 5th. American League's in an apparent laugher, 7-0, and they almost batted around there. fact, they got back to the pitcher spot, so let's see what's going to happen here. New pitcher for the American League. They will turn to Ken Schramm of the Indians. So Ken Schramm will get his inning in because he's set to lead off next inning, but he'll go ahead and get one inning in anyway. So Schramm will face Ozzie Smith and a pinch hitter for the pitcher. 6-4 is a home run. Look at that. First pitch he gives to Ozzie, and Ozzie takes him deep. Puts the National League on the board. Still at 7-1, so nothing to write home about. Now we need a pinch hitter for the National League, and it will be, let's take a look here. They're going to go with Dave Parker. So Dave Parker is going to come in to pinch hit. Parker from the Cincinnati Reds. He will pinch hit here in the 5th inning. So Dave Parker. 5-6 is a 1-4 triple. 5-20 is a double. It's a 4, so it's a triple. How about that? Schramm comes in, gets greeted with a home run and a triple for his work so far. Here's Gwynn, 6-4, and that's a home run again. I rolled 6-4 again, and Tony Gwynn, a 2-run shot, and Schramm hasn't gotten anybody out yet and given up 3 runs. So the bullpen going strong, hot and heavy for the American League again. Here's Sandberg, 5-2 is a ground ball to first. Finally an out. Here's Keith Hernandez. 2-9 for Hernandez, and that's a double. Solid double. Brings up Gary Carter. 2-3 to Carter is a walk, and the National League, that's going to be all for Schramm. They can't go any further with him. He just didn't have it. So he's coming out quickly, and they're going to go to Willie Don't Call Me Guillermo Hernandez because they need some instant relief. They don't need a starting pitcher in there. They need somebody that's used to being a relief pitcher. So Willie Hernandez will be coming on. And Schramm just couldn't get it done. Willie Hernandez, and he's going to be facing Darryl Strawberry. It's a lefty-on-lefty matchup, although in basic it doesn't matter. 6-5 for Hernandez is a fly ball to right field B, so that's out number 2. That'll bring up Mike Schmidt. Runners at first and second, 2 outs. Schmidt, 1-7, ground ball to short. That's going to end the inning. So Hernandez does his job and gets out of it without any further damage. For the National League, 3 runs on 4 hits. There were no errors, and there were 2 left. So at the end of 5 complete, it is the American League 7, the National League 3, and we'll get a pinch hitter for Hernandez because he is scheduled to lead off. He was just there to stem the tide and not let things get out of hand. So we also need a new pitcher for the National League because of the pinch hitting of Parker. And the new pitcher for the National League is going to be Mike Scott, Houston's own Mike Scott. So Mike Scott is going to come in, and we need a pinch hitter for the American League. And the pinch hitter for the American League is going to be Harold Baines. So Harold Baines of the White Sox will pinch hit against Mike Scott. So Baines is in to pinch hit here to start the 6th against Mike Scott. 5-6 against Scott is a ground ball shortstop X. That's Ozzie. Ozzie is a 17 on a 1 for shortstop. 17 on 1 and a shortstop is an out number 3. Good play. 1 away. Brings up top of the order and Puckett. 2-6 for Puckett is a strikeout, out number 2. And that'll bring up Ricky Henderson, who's already had 2 home runs in the game. He's bucking for the MVP. 210, he just missed it. 229 would have been a chance. 210's a pop out to third, and the inning's over. No runs, no hits, no errors, and nobody left. We go to the bottom of the sixth. Score 7-3. Be right back because we got wholesale substitutions on the way. Okay, wholesale changes, so I'll try to go through them as fast as I can. Basically, everybody in the American League got swapped out. Kirby Puckett is now gone. Lloyd Mosby takes over in center. Jose Canseco takes over for Ricky Henderson in left. George Brett takes over for Wade Boggs at third base. Rich Gedman, the catcher, takes over for Parrish. Don Mattingly takes over for Wally Joyner at first base. Tony Fernandez takes over at shortstop for Ripken. Jesse Barfield takes over for Dave Winfield in right field. Frank White takes over at second base for Whitaker. And the new pitcher is going to be Mike Witt from the Angels. And that leaves two batters on the bench for the American League left to pinch hit, Brooke Jacoby and Eddie Murray. Alright, now we go to the National League and their changes as they're coming to bat. And I made a few mistakes. I tried to use everybody, but then I ran out of pinch hitters, so I had to pull two guys. So Tim Raines was going to substitute for Gwynn, but I need him as a pinch hitter, so he's going to stay on the bench. Steve Sachs will take over for Sandberg. Glenn Davis will take over for Keith Hernandez. Tony Pena will take over for Gary Carter. I was going to use Chili Davis for Strawberry, but again, I need him for a pinch hitter, so I had to pull him. Chris Brown's going to take over at third base for Schmidt. Murphy stays in center field. Hubie Brooks takes over at shortstop for Ozzie Smith. And in the top half of the inning, Sid Fernandez will take over to pitch for the National League. But right now, it is Mike Witt facing Chris Brown. I'm sorry, facing Murphy. Facing Murphy to lead off. He'll be followed by Hubie Brooks. It's a 1-7 for Murphy, and that's a home run chance. 1-6. Anything else is a fly out. It's a 13, so he flies to left. One away, and that brings up Hubie Brooks. So Hubie Brooks, the batter. 2-6 for Hubie, and he's going to strike out. Out number 2. And now we get a pinch hitter. So technically, Sid Fernandez was not yet announced because we still had the previous pitcher in the game, that being Franco. But now we got a pinch hitter for Franco, and that's why I had to keep back some of those players. So pinch hitting for Franco is going to be, let's see who they're going to go with here. They are going to go with Chili Davis. So Chili Davis is going to pinch hit for Franco. That's Chili Davis, and that is Jody Davis. Got a lot of Davises in here. Here's Chili Davis. 2 outs, nobody on. 4-6 against Witt. And that's a fly to center, and Chili Davis is out of there. No runs, no hits, no errors, nobody left. You've completed 6. It's the American League 7, National League 3. And now El Cid will come in. Mike Witt is done with his 1 inning of work. So now, actually Witt may have to go 2 innings because they're short on pitchers but big on position players. So might have to get him 2 innings of work. Let's see here. Leading off would be George Brett, new third baseman against El Cid. Taking over for Boggs. 3-7 for Brett. And that's a 1-13 double. 14-20 is a single. That's a double for George Brett. So hit parade continues for the American League. Here's Rich Gedman taking over for Parrish at the catching position. 6-7. And that's a walk by El Cid. So that'll bring up Mattingly. Dangerous Don Mattingly taking over for Joyner, who was over 3. 2-8 for Mattingly, and that's a ground ball shortstop base. 6-4-3 double play. So that will help El Cid. Now there's 2 outs, and instead of having Ripken to face, he's going to face Tony Fernandez, the shortstop, the new shortstop. 6-5. Well, 1-15 is a single, and 16-20 is a line out. It's a single, but it's, and the runner's at third already, so that's all they needed. 1 star was all he needed to get the run home, and he did it. So Tony Fernandez, an RBI single. for the American League. Brings up Jesse Barfield, taking over for Winfield. 1-8, and that's a potential home run right there for Barfield. 1-17, and he will greet El Cid rudely, and he does. That's a 2-run shot for Barfield, and El Cid may have to come out of there as Frank White is coming on and El Cid's coming out. So El Cid is leaving the game, and they're going to go to they're going to go to Jeff Reardon. They need somebody to get a quick out. So Jeff Reardon is on. Jeff Reardon. He will be on to face Frank White and try to get this last out here in the inning. So Frank White 6-8 against Reardon. It's a strikeout. So Reardon did his job, gets the strikeout, but 1, 2, 3. So 3 runs on 3 hits, no errors, and a man, and nobody left actually. So we go to the bottom of the seventh inning stretch, and it's a 10-3 lead for the American League. So new pitcher, I'm sorry, Witt's going to stay in there for the 2nd inning. My bad, because I only got 2 pitchers left. So got Ossie and Rigetti left, and that's it. So got to have another inning from a starting pitcher who's in relief. So he will gladly stay in for another inning. And we've got Tony Gwynn stepping up. We're at the top of the order. So it's Tony Gwynn who will get that call. Tony Gwynn. I gotta find his card because I was originally taking him out when I didn't have to. So here's Gwynn. Got him back in there. 110 for Gwynn. He lines to first. 1 away, and that'll bring up the new second baseman, Steve Sachs. And Sachs will be followed by Glenn Davis, the new first baseman. So Sachs and then Davis. 4-7 against Witt is a strikeout. So Mike Witt doing very well in his 2 innings so far. And now Glenn Davis, first baseman from the host Astros, taking over for Keith Hernandez. So 3-10 for Glenn Davis, and he strikes out. So Mike Witt, 1, 2, 3 innings in both of his innings. So 2 perfect innings pitched for Mike Witt, and the National League is done here in the 7th. We go to the 8th. New pitcher for the National League here in the 8th inning will be Mike Krukow from the Giants. So Mike Krukow will take over, and he'll be pitching to a pinch hitter because we are at the pitcher spot. So the pinch hitter will be Eddie Murray. So Eddie Murray is going to pinch hit here in the 8th against Mike Krukow. 2-5 for Murray is a fly to left, 1 away. So Murray is out of there. That leaves Brooke Jacoby as the only position player not to play for the American League. Might try to sneak him in somehow or another. Here's Mosby. 5-6 for Mosby against Krukow, and that's a fly to right. So that's out number 2. Here is Canseco. In fact, if we get to Brett, if Canseco reaches, then we may just go ahead and put Jacoby in there for Brett. 3-11, and that's a ground ball to short to end the inning. But what I'm going to do, I think, just to make sure he gets in the game, is he will take over for George Brett at third base and lead off in the top of the 9th. So that's what Jacoby will do, third base, and he is a rated 3 rated third baseman. So Brett got a short night, but Jacoby will lead off next inning so that he gets in the game and everybody gets in. And now for the American League, Don Ossie will take over in relief, and that leaves Dave Rigetti as their only player left, and he's probably going to pitch the 9th, as you might expect. But right now it is Don Ossie who is coming in, and he is scheduled to face Tony Pena to lead things off for the National League. Tony Pena will be followed by Strawberry. 4-9 against Ossie is a ground ball to second, 1 away, and that'll bring up the aforementioned Strawberry, who again I took to the side thinking he was going to come out until I realized I was out of players. So Strawberry back in there in his rightful position, 4-6, and he's going to get a base hit off of Aussie. 1 to 6 is a double, but a 10 is a single, so it's a 1-out single by Strawberry. Brings up Chris Brown, new third baseman who took over for Schmidt. Chris Brown from the Giants, followed by Murphy. 111 for Chris Brown, and he's going to line out to third plus injury, but I'm not doing injuries. Plus I don't have anybody left on the bench anyway, so there's 2 down for Murphy. 2 outs, runner at first for Murphy. It's a 2-8 for Murphy, and he's going to strike out to end the inning. So no runs, a hit, no errors, and a man left. And we go to the 9th. It is still a comfortable 10-3 lead for the American League. And Brooke Jacoby, like I said, will lead off, and he's going to face the next to last National League pitcher. Shane Raleigh is the only one that didn't get in, the left-handed reliever, but they're going to use Dave Smith, the hometown guy. He's going to come in and pitch the 9th against Jacoby. 4-8, and that's going to be a ground ball shortstop. Shortstop for the National League now is Hubie Brooks, and he is a 3. That's a 17. 3 and a 17 is out with no runners on base. So if nobody's on base, it's an out. 1 away. Brings up Rich Gedman, catcher. 4-7 against Smith. That's a strikeout. So 2 down. And that'll bring up Don Mattingly. One more chance. 1-7 is a solid single for Mattingly. Brings up Tony Fernandez. 4-7 is a strikeout to end the inning. So no runs, a hit, no errors, and a man left. We go to the bottom of the 9th. Last chance for the National League is not a good one. They're down 10-3, and they're going to have to face Dave Righetti to top things off. So Dave Righetti is on the bump. Obviously not a save situation, and he will be facing Brooks and then a pinch hitter, Tim Raines. So a couple of expos will be starting things off. Brooks and then Tim Raines to pinch hit, which is why I had to pull him from the outfield, because I needed him to pinch hit. So Brooks will lead off against Righetti. 6-7 is a strikeout, 1 away. And now that brings up Tim Raines, pinch hitting. 3-9 for Raines. It's a 1-17 single. 18-20 is a line out to short. It's a single for Raines, and he's a good stealer, but you're not going to steal. He's a double-A stealer, but you're not going to steal down 10-3. That would be rather ridiculous. So Tony Gwynn back to the top of the order. Gwynn, a 3-8, and that's a single with 2 stars. So runners are now on the corners with 1 out for Steve Sachs. Steve Sachs. So Righetti better do it because there's nobody else left in the bullpen. 6-9 is a fly to center field B. It's a sacrifice fly to center. That gets the run home as Raines will score, but it's only a 10-4 game now. And the runner at first, 2 outs for Glenn Davis of the Astros. Last chance. 4-6 is a single off of Righetti, so keeping it going. Nobody wants to be the last out. Here is Tony Pena from the Pirates. 4-4, and that's another single, and that's going to load the bases. Bases are now loaded, and Righetti's struggling a little bit here, and now he's got Strawberry coming up. Strawberry goes deep. We could have an interesting game right now. 1-7. Nope, fly ball to right is going to end the ball game. For the National League, they got 1 run on 4 hits, no errors, and they left them loaded. So the final score, 10-4 in favor of the American League. And that's going to do it from here. Hope everybody enjoyed that basic presentation of strat-o-matic and didn't get too confused with all the substitutions. Try to get everybody in there. Only guy that didn't get to play was Shane Raleigh for the Phillies. Sorry about that, Shane. That's gonna do it from here. Hope everybody enjoys the All-Star game. And until next time, I'll see you all down the road.